After losing my memory, I mistook my sworn enemy for my husband. Then I moved into his house. The day my memory came back, I was tugging at his sleeve, demanding a kiss. The moment my memories crashed back into place, my entire body went rigid. I was just about to run, but the man who had always been distant and cold merely furrowed his brows, lowered his head, and kissed me lightly. "All right," he said with helpless patience. "Now can you stay home and behave?" 1. Before my memory returned, I thought Ethan Shaw was the best husband in the whole world. I loved him so much, I thought I might die from it. If I couldn't see him for even a second, I would start crying. At breakfast that morning, I was gripping Ethan Shaw's sleeve with both hands and refusing to let go. Tears trembled in my eyes. "Are you going to leave me behind again?" "Lola, let go." The man whose sleeve I was clutching wore his usual indifferent expression. He tried to pull his arm free, and the buttons on his suit jacket gave an ominous strain. I stubbornly wrapped both arms around him instead and said in a wounded voice, "That's not what you used to say. You said you'd love me forever. Without you, I'll really die." This conversation happened almost every morning. On average, I threw this kind of fit once every 2 or 3 days. And Ethan was the only one who could calm me down. Ethan closed his eyes, gave up struggling, and said, "I have a meeting. I'll be back tonight." "How late is tonight? I'm scared of sleeping alone." When he didn't answer, I lowered my head and began to cry. A flicker of headache crossed his face. Suppressing his temper, he asked in a low voice, "Fine. What do you want this time?" I turned my face and pointed at my cheek. "I haven't kissed you yet." In the mirror, my pretty reflection stared back at me. Ethan sat beside me, lean and elegant. Honestly, we really did look like a match made in heaven. The thought stopped halfway through. At some point, the face in front of me gradually overlapped with the one in my mind. And with that, my memories slammed back into place. I froze. The adoring look in my eyes turned into outright horror. Wait, what am I doing? I, Lola Reed, CEO of Reed Capital, I'd spent years trying to destroy Ethan Shaw in the corporate battlefield, and now that my brain had short-circuited, I'd been calling him my husband? My whole body tensed as sarcasm rushed to the tip of my tongue. But before I could say anything, Ethan, always so cold and controlled, frowned, leaned down, and pressed a kiss to my cheek. The cool touch shot through me like electricity. His voice was helpless. "All right," he said. "Now can you stay home quietly?" Ethan left. I stayed rooted to the spot for a full 20 minutes before I managed to process anything. He kissed me just now? As for the relationship between Ethan and me, well, saying we hated each other would be putting it mildly. The last time we met, I'd smilingly wished him an early death. He had only glanced at me and replied in that calm, indifferent tone of his, "If I go early, I'm dragging Miss Reed down with me." And yet, in the short span of half a month, I'd gone through a car accident, amnesia, love at first sight with Ethan Shaw, and had even clung to him shamelessly enough to move into his private residence. What a disaster! The whole house was silent. I sat in the chair for a long time, forcing myself to calm down. And I reached one conclusion. Under no circumstances could I let Ethan know my memory had returned. He would laugh at me for the rest of my life. I tore through the room and finally found my work phone hidden in a secret compartment of my suitcase. When my assistant picked up, she nearly burst into tears. "Miss Reed, where on earth have you been for the past half-month? Ethan Shaw has practically poached all of your business." I gritted my teeth so hard they almost cracked. So that was it. He'd been laughing at me in private while swallowing up my business as fast as he could. "The Yu Cheng contract is being signed today, right?" My assistant sounded frantic. "Yes, you disappeared for half a month. Yu Cheng is about to sign with Ethan Shaw instead." My heart sank. I immediately stood up and pulled on my clothes. "I'll stop Ethan myself. Tell Victor Wu that if he can't get that contract, I'm firing him." That same day, I boarded the flight right after Ethan's and landed in Yucheng.
The project here had always been handled by my vice president, Victor Wu, and my unfamiliar face made me perfect for moving in quietly. That night, the ballroom glittered with clinking glasses and polished smiles. I stood before the glass wall in the lobby and gave myself an approving once-over. I was wearing a pale gold mermaid gown. I'd bought it with Ethan's card while I was still suffering from amnesia. Including the jewelry, I'd spent close to $10 million. Even this plane ticket had been charged to him. Ethan definitely knew I was here. I stood at the entrance, scanning the crowd, but didn't spot him. I had just turned to leave when my back collided with a hard chest. A cool, refined, woody scent enveloped me instantly. Then Ethan's familiar voice slipped into my ear, edged with chilly mockery. "So, Miss Reed has dropped the act?" I froze 1 second, then spun around and threw myself into his arms. "Honey, I missed you so much." The movement was so sudden that the back of my dress slipped, exposing far too much skin. A few people nearby immediately noticed. "Who's that?" "I think that's Mrs. Shaw." Ethan stiffened. With a dark face, he wrapped my jacket around me, put a hand at my waist, and hustled me into the catering prep room. The cold stainless steel counter pressed into my hips, knocking silverware into a clattering chorus. His eyes were dark. "Lola Reed, what exactly are you doing?" He only ever called me by my full name when I was amnesiac, so apparently I'd fooled him again. I toyed with his tie, eyes wandering innocently. "Nothing, I just missed you." "Tell me the truth." The smile slipped from my face. My mouth trembled, my eyes reddened instantly, and I said, "They said you have a lover in Yu Cheng, so I came to see." There was not a trace of warmth in his expression. "That's not true." "You're lying." I kicked him petulantly. "I saw you talking to another woman just now. You don't love me anymore." He frowned. "That was our business partner." Of course I knew it was a business partner. Vice President Yao of Minghua Group, the people we'd come here to negotiate with. I turned my head away. "I don't believe you. Not unless you keep me with you tonight." Ethan looked as though he'd had the life drained out of him by my theatrics, but in the end he gave in. "Fine." That night, I took Ethan's arm and fluttered around like a delighted little butterfly. I chatted merrily with all the representatives from Minghua Group. I interrupted Ethan's negotiations again and again. By the end, he was sitting alone in a corner, those dark eyes fixed at me in silence. I had no idea what he was thinking. The moment the gala ended, Ethan dragged me back to the hotel room. The door slammed shut behind us. Darkness fell all around. His rough fingertips settled against my throat, stroking lightly. "Lola, how is it that I never realized you're so good at acting?" His voice was low and steady, and in the dark it sounded devastatingly restrained. I'd had a few drinks and felt pleasantly floaty. Leaning against his chest, I complained in a sticky, clinging voice. "I just wanted you not to talk to another woman." Secretly, I was covered in goosebumps. Good Lord, was this really what I was like after losing my memory? Ethan let out a sudden laugh. "No title, no status, but you're already this possessive?" When he set me down on the bed, his phone rang. The screen lit up sharply in the dark. He answered. His assistant's voice drifted through the receiver. "Mr. Shaw, the Yu Chang contract was taken by Miss Reed's people." "By who?" "Victor Wu, Vice President Wu." Silence filled the room. The clock in the corner beat in time with my pulse, each tick hammering against my nerves. I casually brushed my foot against him as though nothing was wrong, while holding my breath and waiting for his reaction. His suit trousers rustled softly. He hung up and a cool smile touched his lips. "Lola Reed, do you think I'm easy to play with?" "I like you. Why would I play with you?" The smile vanished from his face. He lowered his head and bit down on my lips. The kiss carried a kind of anger that refused to dissolve. He bit so hard that I tasted blood. Only when I winced did he release me, stroking my disheveled hair with a cold smile. "Go on, what other nonsense haven't you said yet? Your husband is listening." I caught my breath, looked him earnestly, and said, "I love you." "Ah!" With a vicious ripping sound, the hem of my dress was torn open at the waist. The last trace of restraint disappeared from Ethan's eyes. "You really won't give up until you see a coffin." He pinned me hard into the corner, threading his fingers through mine and locking our palms together. Then he laughed softly. I hope that on the day your memory comes back, you'll still be able to say that. Otherwise, I won't mind killing you myself.
4. My evaluation of Ethan Shaw had always been simple: a vile, wild dog. Unlike me, he didn't come from old money. He had clawed his way up from nothing. People said that anyone who crawled out of a pit that ate the weak would spend the rest of his life tearing at everything in sight for resources. That was Ethan, relentless, ruthless, impossible to stomach. I remembered how, years ago, I had flirted with him out of spite after he stole a business deal from me. He had replied lazily, "You want to keep me, Miss Reed? I'm afraid you can't afford me." And tonight, watching him lose control gave me a secret kind of satisfaction. There was a saying for this, wasn't there? I got him for free. Ethan had always been obsessively clean, disgustingly so. When the day came for us to tear each other apart, I wasn't sure whether he would laugh at me more or I'd laugh at him more. That train of thought shattered when a hard thrust from behind broke it apart. Ethan's lazy, lowered voice came from right behind me. Daydreaming? His warm, damp breath spilled across my skin. Instinctively, I bit my lip and threw out a weak taunt. "What, didn't you eat?" He went still for a split second, then laughed, a low ripple that spread outward in the dark. Fine. Just one word. And after that, not another sentence. Only increasingly merciless retaliation. The next morning, I struggled awake from the depths of sleep. The soreness all over my body had only gotten worse. I gritted my teeth, forced myself upright, and felt around until I found the phone that had fallen beside the bed. Switching to my private account, I saw a message from Victor Wu. "Miss Reed, everything's done." And "Mason Zhang has switched sides, he's sent over some things." Mason Zhang had built Ethan's empire alongside him from the beginning. The two of them were as close as brothers, but for the past 6 months, they'd been fighting constantly. It looked very much as though they were feuding over an uneven split. I'd quietly tried to get leverage through Mason Zhang before, but I hadn't expected it to finally pay off now. I paused, then replied, "What things?" "Evidence that Ethan Shaw stole commercial secrets. This time we can absolutely send him to prison." My first thought was that Ethan himself had laid this trap, for me. After a brief silence, I said, "Send it to my email. I'll review it myself." Victor Wu panicked. "Miss Reed, don't hesitate." "Do as I say." But the moment I hung up, the door opened. Ethan stood in the doorway, his gaze fixed on the phone screen going dark in my hand. "Who were you talking to?" he asked softly. I shoved the phone away. "No one." He narrowed his eyes and started toward me. I planted my foot against his knee before he could get close and frowned. "It hurts." "What hurts?" He hadn't reacted yet. "What do you think hurts?" It's the first time something like this has happened to me. Can't I ask someone about it? Remembering the sheer intensity of the previous night, I still felt a little shaken. Ethan froze. His voice turned tight. "You ask other people about this?" He took hold of my foot, bent down, and slipped it into a pair of house slippers. "Get up. I'm taking you to a doctor." Should you wish to read more of the story, please click the link below or download the app. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to leave a comment below.